So I'm your sheriff, Sarasota County Sheriff Kurt Hoffman. I was asked to grab the microphone, and I never turned down a microphone. Thank you so much for that. What a great turnout for our congressman and our next governor. They wanted me to just say a few words before Byron comes out. I see around the room a lot of familiar faces and a few new faces, and I hope you all are excited, as I am, about this candidacy. Byron has worked really hard to get the support of law enforcement. He's pushing 40 sheriffs, and there's a few more coming on board. So what we need, and we've got a whole bunch of them in this room. You've got Fiona and Will and James and Bill and Danny and all these folks that support law enforcement. So I couldn't do my job without them, and I think Congressman Byron Donalds is going to fit that bill as well. So has anybody not had a chance to meet the congressman? Show of hands. Okay, well, today's the day. You're going to get a chance to ask him some questions and meet him. And I've had some wonderful conversations with him about law enforcement here in Florida and public safety issues. And I couldn't be more proud to be one of the almost 40 sheriffs that have endorsed Congressman Byron Donalds. I think he's going to be a great governor. Quinn, do you know if he's in the room yet?
So close.
Okay. So I gotta tell some jokes or something here. So just a couple of things while we're waiting for the congressman. When I see him pop in back there, we'll give him a big round of applause. But again, law enforcement professionals cannot keep their communities safe without our elected officials, and we are just super blessed in this community. I was having a conversation over here with Bill. Did you see all those spring break problems they had in other counties on TV? We didn't have them here. And that's because we've got the support of our delegation and our citizens. Right, Mike?
Best year ever.
Best year ever, okay.
Thank you.
I'll take that. So it takes a proactive approach, but it also takes the support of our local elected officials, our Board of County Commissioners as well, making sure that we have the budget that we need to be able to protect this community. So since I've got to do a little more of it, is he here? Okay, he's here. So without further ado, my friend and a guy I was happy to endorse, the next governor of the state of Florida, Congressman Byron Donalds. Come on, man. There we go. Congressman, I've been telling jokes for 15 minutes just trying to get Sure. How you doing? Good to see you, man. I may have failed to mention James Buchanan, my good friend in that legislative delegation. So here he is. James?
It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you today. You know, I had the opportunity of serving in the Florida House with Congressman Donalds, and what I can tell you, he is someone we knew at that time, I knew at that time, was a rising star. He was someone that was going to go on to do great things, and I'm just thrilled to be on this team. There's a lot that's left to do, and we're just getting started. As I look around this room, I see so many folks that I've known for 20 years plus. As much as Sarasota's grown and the greater region's grown, it actually still feels pretty small in a way. You know everyone else through one other person. And so I want to introduce someone that I've known for 20 years plus. She's going to be absolutely amazing in Congress. She's going to be your next Congresswoman. Sydney Gruters, come on up.
Thank you, James. This is amazing. It's so great to see all of you here today on a Monday morning. I am just honored to be here and so excited to welcome Congressman Donalds to Sarasota. I'm Cindy Gruters. I'm running for Congressional District 16, Congressman Buchanan's seat. When he announced he's retiring, I know we're all going to miss him. He did such an amazing job, but I promise I won't let you down if I am blessed enough to be elected. So Congressman Donalds has been such a strong conservative voice here in Southwest Florida for many, many years. Thank you for fighting every day for the people of Florida and just being such a strong advocate for the values that we all hold. I don't see Erica, but I have to mention her. She, as a mother, I just want to thank her for her strong fight for parental rights and school choice. That's something very important to me. And so please tell her I said thank you. You all will do amazing in the governor's mansion, and we're also fortunate to support you. So we all need to lock arms and make sure that Congressman Donalds gets elected. I also have the privilege now to introduce my dear friend, Fiona McFarland. She is your state rep, and I've been able to call her friend. And I will probably be calling you on speed dial should I be blessed enough to get elected to see how you serve with such grace and professionalism, having little ones at home, and I thank you for the sacrifice that you continue to make this district.
I can't wait to have Sydney representative of the DC. This is going to be fantastic. As we bring Congressman Donalds back to Florida, we're going to send Sydney up there, and it's going to be fine. Everything's going to be great. Hello, everyone. I'm Fiona McFarland. This is usually the clubhouse of the Young Republicans of Sarasota. I don't know if we have Young Republicans here at 11:30 on a Monday, but they'll be here at 11:30 at night, I'm sure. I'm so excited to have everyone here. This is fantastic. This is my district. I'm so happy to welcome you to Sarasota, Congressman. I serve in the Florida House. I was the first person to endorse Congressman Donalds when, I think it was even a rumor, you hadn't filed yet, there was a rumor. He was like, yeah, I'm in. Whatever you need, Congressman, I'm in. Please be our next governor. As I prepare to enter my senior year in the House, right, because we're term limited, I am so excited for our next governor and the amazing things that we are going to get done up in Tallahassee for the good people of Florida. Florida leads because of conservative government, and you know that Congressman Donalds will continue that charge as Governor Byron Donalds.
Yeah. He's served during difficult times. He stood with our president when it was unpopular to do so. He has spoken to very divisive groups that have terrible things to say to him, and he does it with grace and a smile and humor and dedication to conservative principles. That's the person that I want in our governor's mansion. Ladies and gentlemen, my dear friend, Byron Donalds.
Listen, thank you so much for the introduction. I really appreciate it. Thanks everybody for being here. I see why the YRs hang out here. This makes sense. Nice little place on the rooftop. I saw a YR way over there in the corner. How you doing? What's your name?
Gabriella.
Gabriella?
Yes.
Man, thanks for being here, Gabriella. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Danny Nix, I saw you over there on this side of the room. Sorry I didn't give you a handshake, brother, but Danny Nix is up here. It's great to see him. Will Robinson. Will and I go back a long way. It's good to see you. Bill Connerly, thank you for being here. Obviously, Fiona. Next state senator?
Next state senator.
Next state senator, we're already there?
We're getting close.
We're getting close? Okay. Seems like we're both getting close.
Yes,
So
sir.
we're both getting close at the same time. James Buchanan, great to see you, my friend. Sydney, ooh, Congress. May the Lord bless you and keep you. Ooh, boy. Well, honestly, you're going to do a tremendous job in Congress. Thank you so much for wanting to step up and serve this nation. I will tell you what Capitol Hill needs more than anything are people who are going to be willing to stand firm at every single time. And as long as we have members of Congress who are going to do that, it works. So thank you for your willingness to serve. You're going to do a great job. And, you know, you're going to class up the place too. It needs some help. It needs some help, you know. With Vern leaving, we need as much help as we can get up there. And real quick, I do want to acknowledge my friend, my colleague, Byron Buchanan, in his service to Sarasota and to the state of Florida. He's done a tremendous job. Sheriff, you're doing a great job.
Thank you, appreciate your support.
That's what they tell me every time I come through Sarasota. I say, how's your sheriff? They go, he's doing a great job. I go, good. That's all I want to know. If they say you weren't doing a good job,
We have problems.
we have a problem. So you're doing a great job here in Sarasota County. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for keeping us safe here. I want to start there before I will come back to you, Sheriff. Jack Burrow, Chairman, Sarasota GOP. Jack, good to see you. Thank you for all your leadership here in Sarasota County. You know, you guys run a tight ship in Sarasota. I live down in Naples and Collier County. Our RACs can be interesting sometimes, but we're always focused on turning out the vote. Up here in Sarasota County, Jack, you've done a great job, and I know the other guy who's kind of doing that job, and you guys have always been a model for the state of Florida in terms of making sure that Republicans are active, they're focused, they're turning out the vote, they're keeping Sarasota County red, and helping to keep Florida red. So thank you. I want to start here with something that's very important. It's really the sheriff's responsibility, but it's also the governor's responsibility. We are going to always back the blue. We are going to back our sheriffs. Law and order. Will remain the standard in the state of Florida. People always ask, well, Byron, we know what Governor DeSantis has done on this, and he's done a great job leading our state. We know where Governor Scott stood on this, and he did a great job leading our state. Why do we think that you're going to do the same? It's very simple. When I grew up in New York City, before I moved to Florida at 17 years old, I experienced actually 3 different mayors. My first mayor was Ed Koch. He was okay on law enforcement. My second mayor was David Dinkins. I see the former New Yorkers remember. No need to say anything else. The former New Yorkers remember the Dinkins administration. It was not good when it came to law and order in the city of New York. And then we had this guy come along named Rudy Giuliani. As a young kid in New York City, I will tell you, living in inner city Brooklyn, you could tell the difference when Rudy took over. Law enforcement was on the street. They were holding people accountable. Our streets got safer. Every year he was mayor, our streets got safer. And that's because Rudy had a commitment to law and order. And watching that as a young kid, my commitment for you, Sheriff Hoffman, and for all the sheriffs, and for all the police chiefs in Florida is the same. We are going to be committed to law and order. Because you can't build a good business like this nice, beautiful bar here. You can't have safe streets. You can't build a world-class economy if you first don't have law and order. And that's going to be the standard that will remain in Florida. Let's talk about our economy. We have a great state. We're in everything state. I tell the story all the time. We started as an agriculture state, and then we kind of became a retirement state, and then we became a tourism state. But Florida is so much more than those pieces. We are an everything state. We grow the food that you see on your table every single day. We also, you can tell by the hotels and the regattas and the ships and the boats, people love coming here to be a part of the Florida magic, the Florida dream. They love being here. Obviously, a lot of seniors, none of you in here, because you're all 45 years old, looking great. People come, they choose Florida for their golden years, and that's going to remain. But it's a new day in Florida. We now have young kids who are leaving other states. They come to Florida to get educated. They want to build that Florida dream for themselves. You have people like me. I moved here 17 years old, 30 years ago. I built the Florida dream for myself here in our great state. My kids were all born here. I got married here. I built a career here. This is the magic of Florida. Hello. How are you? That's the magic of Florida. And why I'm running is very simple. In 30 years' time, when I'm 77 years old, when I'm in my golden years, and I'm long gone from politics and people have forgotten, I want to make sure that Florida remains the best state in America. We talked about law and order. Let me talk about other ways that this is going to happen. Property taxes. I'm looking at my colleagues in the Florida legislature. Good luck. You got a lot to do. But I believe that they're going to come back with a real solution that's going to help our state and help property owners in our state continue to afford the Florida dream. They've already done great work with Governor DeSantis when it comes to tort reform and making sure we're pushing down insurance costs in our state. We actually anticipate that in Florida, some of our carriers are going to be requesting lower rates, in part because of the reforms that were done. And last year, we didn't have a hurricane. That was a blessing. We needed a break, especially everybody here in Sarasota County. We needed a break. We believe that going forward, we're going to continue to see lower rates, but we're not going to just rest on that. We're going to do more. We are going to examine every aspect of Florida's regulatory system when it comes to insurance and find all the unique ways to push this down. And I will tell you, your next governor is uniquely positioned to do this because I spent 17 years in the financial industry. That was my career before politics. I also chaired the Insurance and Banking Subcommittee when I was in the Florida House. So I don't need a staffer to tell me what works and what doesn't work. This has been my business. This is my career. We're going to examine all the different ways to continue to push those costs down. The other thing is housing, how we build housing. We are going to revamp permitting and planning and entitlements in our state. Government today is 30% of the cost of a new home or a new business. 30% is governmental cost. You talk to contractors, you talk to developers, they will tell you. The permitting costs and the extended timelines, all it does is raise the cost on building new homes. And the cost is not going to be borne by the contractor. A contractor is a profit margin business, just like a restaurant and bar is a profit margin business. What they do is they pass the costs on, because if they don't, they're out of business. And then there's nobody building anything. We have to be more efficient from the government side. Florida's government, as your next governor, is going to be moving at the speed of business, not at the speed of government. That efficiency is critical for the affordability for the future of our state, and we're going to get that done. Let's talk about the environment. The governor made a great announcement that by 2029, the Central Everglades restoration plans should be completed. We are going to make sure we pick up the ball from Governor DeSantis, and we're going to make sure that the Everglades is restored and repaired once and for all. But we're not going to stop there. Once we're done with that work, we're going to be examining all the wastewater treatment facilities in our state, providing the resources to make sure we modernize them and prepare for Florida's freshwater future. We need fresh water, not just for our current residents today, but for the future people who are going to call Florida home. We're going to be committed to our environment and our ecology, because if we make sure we lay the right plans in place over the next 4 years, that's how Florida remains the very best over the next 30. And we're going to be committed to that as well. It's also about our business community. Listen, I told you earlier, we're more than just a retirement state and a tourism state and an ag state. We have in South Florida, and also here in the Tampa Bay region, and also in Jacksonville area, we have businesses and finance are making their home in Florida. Why? Because New York is stupid. I think one of my first acts as governor might be a commendation. I'll have to work with Florida realtors. We'll have to issue a special commendation for Kathy Hochul and Sorhan Mondani, making them the co-Florida Realtors of the Year. Because they're doing such a terrible job up there running that state and that city that people are fleeing. And people are going to continue to flee. And with that comes an ability to make sure that we're bringing businesses and industry to Florida, for the young kids who are in our schools and are in our universities right now, so they can have high-paying jobs for their future here in Florida. It's also about this spaceport called Kennedy Space Center. Last year they did 165 launches. Going into the future, it's estimated we're going to be doing 1,000 launches a year out of Kennedy Space Center. That's not just rockets going up in the sky. It's manufacturing jobs in our state. It's engineering jobs in our state. It's more legs to the economic stool that is Florida. Today, we're the 14th largest economy in the world. In the future, we'll be the 10th largest economy in the world. And when you have a thriving economy that only helps people not just afford Florida, but thrive in Florida, Well, let's talk about the one thing that's on everybody's mind. Growth. Everybody's thinking about it. I saw your body language, man. You just shifted. You just shifted from left to right. Here's the truth. Here's the truth. If you don't have a plan for growth, then that's when it consumes you. Our state needs regional growth management plans. We have to know where the roads are going, where the sheriff's departments are going to go, our firefighter substations are going to go. We have to know where affordable housing, entry-level housing, attainable housing, normal single-family housing is going to go. Where are the new buildings for commercial and industry going? We have to have a plan for this. I love our state. I love it. But Florida doesn't really do urban sprawl. I know that's everybody's concern. What Florida does do is suburban sprawl. We go further and further out. The roads never seem to catch up. People are frustrated because they're just trying to get to go see their friend. They want to go see their homegirl. They want to go pick up their kids. I have 3 of them myself. They want to get to the practice, get to the game, also get home, put food on the table. In short, they want to live and they want it to make sense. The only way we can do that as a state going forward is we need regional growth planning. What's the next 10, 20, and 30 years of Florida going to look like? On a map, not just in somebody's mind. You see, unlike other people, I prefer to tell you the truth. The truth is, because we're a well-run state, and because we're the envy of the other 49 states, people are going to choose Florida. I hear the talk, build a wall. I supported and fought for a president who's building that wall. But you can't build a wall between Florida and Georgia. That's unconstitutional. I hear the talk, Florida's full. Well, guess what? If there is somebody who owns property who chooses they want to develop it, and they build new rooftops, there are going to be people who are going to come and buy those homes. We live in a constitutional republic, which means Americans get to choose which states they want to live in. So I hear all the talk that comes from people today, a lot of it on social media. They say, I'm going to stop all the growth. Let me be very clear. They are lying to you. The truth is we have to have a plan for how we manage the growth that is going to come to Florida. And if we manage that growth, then we can still make sure people are getting from point A to point B efficiently, while also protecting our rural lands, protecting our conservation lands, protecting our agricultural lands, and preserving the beauty that is Florida. I like to say that I choose to live where Rush Limbaugh, God rest his soul, chose to live. I choose to live in real Linda. I choose to live in the real world. And the real world is you have a plan for your future. Politics is saying we're just going to stop everything. That's politics. It's not the truth. It's not reality. The next governor of Florida has to have a plan and a strategy for the future of our state. Because if we don't have that, then we will choke on our growth. And we'll choke on our success. And I don't want that to happen. I want a Florida that is bigger, better, and brighter than it's ever been before. We have a solemn responsibility to protect and defend the Florida dream. There was a state that was in a similar position to our state. This state used to be the hub of innovation. It used to be the hub of where you started small businesses. It used to be the hub where young kids would go to get educated. It was the hub of great weather and great resources. Still is today. They had a tagline for this state. The tagline was California Dream. And we all know that the California dream has become a California nightmare. And it became a nightmare because of crazy, radical, progressive policies that promised a lot of things but could never deliver. What we are fighting for is to preserve and protect the Florida dream. We want everybody to be Florida dreaming. I was in the Villages 2 weeks ago. There was a World War II vet, 101 years old. He looked at me, stopped me dead in my speech, and I said, sir, because you're a World War II vet and you're 101 years old, you can stop me whenever you like. And he looked at me and he said, Byron, you tell him as you go across the state, you tell him that when you buy a house in Florida, you're not buying a piece of property. You're buying a way of life. And what we are going to protect as your next governor is the way of life in Florida while preparing it for its future. That's why I'm running to be your next governor. It's going well, but that's why I'm running to be your next governor. So God bless you. Thank you for being here in Sarasota. Open it up for questions. Anybody got any questions? We're going to open it up. Yes, ma'am.
It's so wonderful to see you, and we support you wholeheartedly. Will you continue the line that Governor DeSantis has been strong on in terms of protecting the curriculum that our children in school are exposed to, and that is become a sad priority in some cases, off the beaten path, so to speak? Do you have a plan to continue a conservative line with what young children in schools are exposed to?
100% I do. Let me tell you a couple things. When I first was elected to the Florida House, the first bill that I passed that was signed into law was House Bill 989. What that bill allowed for was for parents and community members to examine all of the instructional materials that were in our classrooms and to take those instructional materials to our school boards. We got a school board member right over there, Bridget Seaman, right here. And Roma right there. How you doing? I'm so sorry. She's tall. And what we did is we made sure that when you saw stuff that was objectionable in these classroom materials, you could bring it to your school board and get your school board on an up or down vote to get that out of the classroom. That was my bill. This was back in 2017. This was before everybody started talking about fighting DEI. I was there fighting the woke stuff, fighting Common Core, so was my wife at the time, long before we started focusing on DEI and ESG and all these other things. So I've been in this fight for more than 15 years. Number two, we want to make sure going forward in our state that our kids are mastering math, reading, and writing by the time they graduate high school. And this isn't change. This is raising the bar on Florida schools. But we have a responsibility to raise the bar. The future of our economy are young people who master core subject matter. So they have the necessary skills that when they graduate high school, if they're going into the workforce, not only are they just going in, they're going in ready to excel. They're going in ready to earn a great pay, a great wage, so they can put food on the table for themselves. The third thing we want to do, we announced it the other day, I was over in Broward County. We are creating a Launchpad initiative. The Launchpad initiative is working with industry in the various parts of the state, using tax credits to create apprenticeships, on-the-job training, internships. So if a young kid is not going to go to college or university, they have a launch pad to their career. They have a pathway towards success so they can be ready for the world that they're going to inherit. When it comes to curriculum mapping, we are going to be focused on common sense. We're going to be focused on the truth, on real history, on making sure our kids are actually learning and not just being passed on from one grade to the next. And that's what matters for the future. When it comes to college and university, we're still going to be focused on making sure there's not woke indoctrination in our schools in the state of Florida. Because if the taxpayers are putting that money up, we're going to have zero tolerance for indoctrination of our students. We're not going to allow for it. And we're going to make sure there are trustees at these various colleges and universities who are going to be working with the administration to make sure that that gets carried out and that gets done. So my commitment on this stuff is not just for a campaign. This has been my commitment for more than 15 years in the conservative movement. Before I was elected to Congress, before I was elected to the Florida House, when I was just a guy in the Tea Party movement down in Naples, Florida. This is the stuff I've always been committed to, and that's never going to change. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Would you speak to the issue of Sharia law? So many people believe, oh, that could never happen here. And I'm a transplant from Texas, and I see the nightmare that's going on there. And I'd just like to know how you would defend our state from that kind of influence.
Well, first, let's start with the standard. Sharia law has no place in America. It does not constitutionalism. It is an anathema to constitutionalism. It is bringing in another subset of law and values into our nation, and it's simply not going to work. In Florida, the way we deal with it first is that we have to be very direct about it and call it out when we see it, and make sure that it's the governor's office working with our state officials, that the community is aware when you have, frankly, CARE and some of these other groups who are trying to create another Dearborn, Michigan, or they're trying to create another one of their cities that they're trying to create out in Dallas, Texas. So we have to stand very firm against it. The second thing, I know the governor just signed it into law the other day, being able to actually denote terrorist organizations in our state. So that way we can actually use law to make sure that those types of constructs do not get a foothold in Florida. Let me speak very clearly to this. Sharia law is incompatible with our way of life, the state's constitution, state law, and federal law. We're not going to tolerate it at any point in time. The other thing we also have to make sure people understand, there are people who are Muslim who practice Islam that are not Sharia adherents. That are not Sharia adherents. And when it comes to them, yes, we'll try to make sure that they have their civil liberties protected. But if there are institutions that are going to promote the Sharia, then we're going to stand firm against it every single day. We will fight it out in courts. We will fight it out in the courts of public opinion. We are going to protect and preserve constitutionalism and Western civilization in the state of Florida.
Thank you so much. My question is,
You're on now.
Thank you. Now, I'm a transplant from California, and the first thing I love about Florida, I saw that it's nothing like California, and it's what's happening out there. It's horrendous.
I love that too.
But a question that I have for you as a real estate agent here in Florida, regarding the property taxes, so you know, legislation is going to the next level and hopefully passing. I don't know that I've heard enough about what are we going to do to compensate for the loss of those taxes. Would it be sales tax or any other type of tax that may be forecast?
Well, let's start here. I know the governor is going to be releasing his plan very shortly, and his plan is going to detail all those various factors, and I think that's critically important. One of the things we always have to make sure we know, all his deputies, himself included, they're paid by local property taxes. We are going to make sure that our sheriffs, our firefighters, our police officers, that all the stuff the local government does with respect to road maintenance, road construction, schools are a part of that. We're going to make sure that those things are protected. But we also have to make sure that you're not a never-ending piggy bank for local government.
That's right.
And that's important. There are some critical things we need to pay, and we're going to make sure that that happens. The governor's plan is going to detail that. I look forward to seeing it as well. I know they're going to go back into special session. My colleagues to my right and your left, they're going to go back into special session very shortly and work through these details. Now, if they're not able to come to an agreement, and it's a high bar to get something on the ballot, you need both chambers of the legislature by a 60% vote to put something on the ballot as a constitutional amendment. If they're not able to make that, then one of the things we're going to do is we're going to use the Tax and Budget Commission to study all taxes and fees in the state, which includes property taxes. We're going to come up with 3 scenarios. The first one is full repeal of homestead property taxes, and then the offsetting revenue necessary to make sure that you fill the gaps to make sure our sheriffs and our public safety officials are getting the funding that they need. The second thing is modernization of the property tax system. Our property tax system was largely created in the late 60s. It's kind of a patchwork system. It's not a one clear, clean system. The other thing that has to be fixed, portability. We have people in our state who've been living in their homes for 20, 25 years, and now they're stuck. I mean, you're in Florida, so you're not really stuck. It's beautiful. But if they want to downsize, their property tax bill would actually go up because they would sell the house they have, which has all the Save Our Home credits on it, and they would move to a new property that's smaller, but you don't have those credits anymore, so their property tax bill will go through the roof. And so what ends up happening is you have people who have great property that they're not selling because they know that they're basically handcuffed to the property. And that's not right either. And that actually impacts young people trying to get into the housing market. Because if you have a set of property that's not moving, because people don't want to relinquish the tax credits that they've accumulated over time, and I understand why, that's a business decision. That's a money decision. But what you end up doing is you stymie the real estate market that you're a professional. So we want to make sure that portability gets fixed as well. There is also a potential way where if you can't make the math work, if the math ain't mathing for full homestead repeal, then the first thing we have to make sure we do is that for our seniors on fixed income, they need relief. They need relief. Because when taxes and insurance are more than principal and interest, you got a problem. A major problem. Something that they never thought was going to happen, something they did not plan for. So we got to fix that. The other is for young people coming into the property owning space. We want to make sure that it's easy for them to own property and not just be slammed at an escrow table where they got to put all this money up for property taxes, not to mention insurance as well. So those are the things that have to get fixed. I support the governor and what he's trying to accomplish. I think his plan, when it comes out, is going to detail all these options and the things that you're talking about revenue. Once that's done, we'll see how the legislature and the governor work together to get that to the ballot. If they aren't able to get something meaningful done, then we're going to pick it up day one as the state's next governor.
Hi there. Thank you for being here today. I just want to ask about HR 2289. What can we do to get that voted down?
What is HR 2289?
With the cell phone towers being constructed everywhere they want at a federal level, the states have no more control over where they go.
So that's already federal law today?
No, it's going to be up for vote. It's on the floor.
The floor this week in D.C.?
Is it this week? Yes. Yes.
Well, let me go and look at the bill, because I'm not quite sure what the bill language is.
We sure would like to have a no vote from you, but.
Well, let me read it first. I want to make sure I read it. I got to read it. I'll make sure I understand it. If it's up for a vote, this week in D.C., that means I'm going to read the bill this week, and then we'll make a determination. I've never truly been a fan of the feds doing stuff like that, just to be clear. But let me read the language, and then we'll see what happens on the floor this week.
I had a question.
Really quickly, we have time for 2 more questions, and then we'll begin meet and greet. Just wanted to give a heads up.
Congressman, you're doing a great job. We're behind you here 100%. Just wanted to ask, as a proactive measure, what will be done to prevent Florida from being another Minneapolis situation where there's $9 billion of fraud with daycare centers that don't exist and all this other BS?
So this is a great question. Let's be very clear. Thing number one, we are going to modernize our government. There's another commission that gets set in state. It's the Government Efficiency Commission. What we're going to do is examine all rulemaking in our state, all statutes in our state, make sure they're actually working in compliance with one another. Because what happens when you layer in a bunch of rules and a bunch of laws, sometimes they're disjointed in terms of application. That's step one. Step two, we are going to do full audits of all agencies in the state of Florida. All of them. I know everybody loves DOJ, and trust me, we're going to still DOJ local governments as well, but we're also going to make sure we're applying the same standard to all state agencies so that we find all of the waste and inefficiencies that are in our systems. What makes Minneapolis terrible is that the government officials in Minneapolis knew this was happening and they did nothing. They did nothing. But let me just tell you, now as a member of Congress, the Government Accountability Office gives us a report every year. There's about $260 billion of what they call misallocated payments from the federal government every single year. Since the Obama administration, that number's around $3 trillion. Misallocated payments. What is that? Holes in the system. Stuff that is going to people who should not get it. And what we're going to do in Florida is we're going to use every tool possible to track it down, squeeze it out, and make sure we're running a lean and an efficient government. That's what is necessary today. I talk sometimes, I'm a finance guy, that was my career, 17 years. What government has to go through is what corporate America went through in the 80s. And I think a lot of people in the 80s, if they were in business, they remember that time. They called it the LBO days, the leveraged buyout days. You would have an outside group come in, examine the entire operations, streamline the operations, cut out the fat. If there was a part of the company that was generating money but was taken away from the core mission, they would spin that off into another company. Corporate America has gone through that. Government has not. And it is now time for government to go through the LBO days. And Florida is going to lead the way on that. We are going to drive a radically efficient and transparent government because money is not forever. And let's also be truthful. Washington, D.C., they have a debt problem. I know, I see it up close and personal. That's why I vote against most of the budgets. Because it's wasteful and it's profitable. And they don't want to do anything to fix it. What is happening in our country, it's been happening really for 30 years, if not longer, is that every time we borrow money as a country, every time we go to the bond market to get money, the bond market charges us more because they are looking at our budgets too, and they don't understand how they're getting paid back. So every time we borrow money, it gets more expensive. And when the federal government borrows more money, what it does, it decreases your purchasing power. That's what really happens. It devalues every other dollar in circulation. In Florida, we want to lead and make sure we're being efficient with every dollar that is given to us. That's squeezing out the waste, squeezing out the misallocations, making sure we're efficient with everybody's dollars. Yes, sir.
Hi, Byron. My name is Jared Slentz. I've been building here since 1978. My question is, what do you think about high-speed rail? High-speed rail, we are the prime location for high-speed rail. I mean, we can go inside all the intercoastal cities and pick up moving passengers at a faster rate. And also, we could set up separate tracks for drop-off canister stations for our freight from shipping yards to local locations so that major trucks don't use up the majority of the fuel and congest our interstates. Our railroads built this country. Our railroads can rebuild this country.
High-speed rail is a very interesting topic. One, to be clear, I got to see the budgets and I got to see the projections. The beauty of me as governor is that was what I did for a living, my first career stop. I would examine budgets and I would examine projections. If the projections look sound, I can be supportive. If they don't look sound, I'm not going to be supportive. I'm not going to invest the state in something I wouldn't invest my banking. Because when I worked in banking, I would get fired if I made the wrong lending decision. So that's the way you look at these things. With high-speed rail, just speaking out loud, part of it is ridership. Can you demonstrate you're going to get the ridership to make the business model work? If the ridership is not there, I don't care how fast it is or how many stops it has. At some point, government's going to have to come in and subsidize that, or basically taxpayers are going to have to come in and subsidize that. If there's a use for it, we will see. And I'll be very direct with you. I'm skeptical because I also grew up in New York City. I've seen the MTA budgets. The MTA budgets never worked, and that was in part because of some of the labor costs and maintenance costs in that system. I want to see how this is going to be managed and how it's going to be delivered before I can make a determination, yes or no. Am I a hard no? No, I'm not there. But you got to look at the details. You got to look at the math. The math works and it's promising. Then let's talk more and figure out how we're going to deploy it. The other key thing is how are you going to build it efficiently? Because it's one thing to have a projection that says this works. But when you look at your building costs and your timetables, if that goes up because of permitting delays, construction delays, etc., it changes the dynamics of the operating model. So we just want to make sure that if we go down that road, or down that track, but if we do that, we want to make sure that we're being efficient with resources, not just today, but the way I analyzed businesses when I was in finance, if it makes sense today, it's got to make sense in 5 years and 10 years. And if you can look at that with being honest with your own view of the projections and say, yes, this makes sense in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, that's a project that you pursue. So I want to look at the money. If the money works, the program will work. Is that fair?
Yeah. That's in the money from investment too. Florida's just the seams. Now there's 23 million.
That's right, 23.5 and growing.
Passengers and make Florida the state of the state. and include and alleviate that traffic on our rivers.
One of the things about freight, and the state does have to have a serious conversation about freight lines. Over in South Florida, a lot of the CSX stuff runs on the Brightline line. What that does create over there are major traffic issues depending on how long those lines are. I mean, the actual CSX line that's going to run down the track. So one of the things we have to look at is there a way to get commercial freight off of that residential line and actually send it through a less inhabited part of the state, so you're not creating traffic congestion as a result. But all this falls into why I believe regional planning is so important. Because if you're going to lay in high-speed rail, that is part of how you're going to build out and plan for future growth in the state of Florida while managing the growth that we have.
What do you think about building right beside the existing tracks on high-speed rail?
That would depend on traffic patterns. It would depend on what communities you're going to move through, commercial centers, industrial centers. Those are things where you really want to sit down and look at maps in detail and figure out what makes sense, not just today, but going into the future. All right, so here's what I'm going to do, because my staff always likes me to do these things, but I'm going to break it. I see you with your camera. What's your question?
Hey, awesome. Thank you. Do I get a mic, or I can just be loud enough?
It's all right.
Awesome.
Everybody gets to ask.
Yeah, so, no, I appreciate you coming out today, and, you know, I just want to ask this question respectfully. I've gone to a lot of communities throughout Florida, rural communities, and there's a lot of concern about the data centers going in. And what I've really noticed is like in Fort Meade, you could say it appeared, but it was obvious that the whole community was against this. And I know they have to go in certain areas, and you're right, like it has to be planned and things like that. But when these communities say no, it seems like they're just being ignored. And so my question would be, you know, some of these communities are thinking of doing moratoriums so they can learn more about, you know, what's going on. What are your thoughts on this? And to be honest, a lot of people are kind of concerned just because it does seem like a lot of these companies are backing your campaign. And I'm not implying it, it's just an honest question. So I appreciate you taking it.
Well, first to the companies or any other body else that's backing my campaign, I would say they're backing it because they all think I'm going to win. And that's just the way these things work.
Fair.
By the way, I'm going to win. So I'm going to take a sidestep. I'm not dodging your question. I'm going to take a sidestep. Yes, fundraising in our campaign has gone incredibly well. We're very blessed. Here's the truth. The truth is, people donate to campaigns because they want to know that you'll actually answer their phone call when you're in office. That's why they do it. And that's fair, that's just the way it is. The better question is, are you controlled by people who donate to your campaigns? And anybody that's ever donated to me, they all know you can donate all you want. That's not going to change my decision in office. Because I'm going to follow the Constitution, I'm going to follow common sense. We were just talking about growth management with respect to high-speed rail. We're going to make sure that, one, the math works and that it's economically sound. If that lines up with some interest, that's great for the state of Florida because it's a project that makes sense, the law made sense, it can be consistently followed. If it doesn't, then sorry, I can't support it. And that's the way I've always been when I've been in elective office. That's not going to change. Specific to data centers. A couple things that we're going to have, some markers we got to lay down. Number one, data centers cannot, and I stress they will not, be able to raise the electricity prices of Floridians. I think that's very, very important. What I want to see, and this is really happening all across the country, President Trump has spoken to this as well. What I want to see is that they generate their own electricity on the site. And they can work with the power companies, however they want to do that, but I want to see site generation. This is one of the reasons I've been so supportive of small modular nuclear reactors and micro reactors. You can actually build them at scale when the technology is there. And the technology is there, it's the regulatory permitting systems that are not there. And so this is why I support them. I think that's important. Two, water. A lot of people have concerns with water usage. The old designs on data centers and hyperscale data centers, there's really two kinds. They did take a lot of fresh water out of the aquifer. The newer designs are actually calling for self-contained water systems, similar, frankly, to how everybody's pool operates, where you might take some water because of just pure evaporation, but what you're really doing is you're recycling the same water through your filtration system. I want to see for data centers and hyperscalers to have a closed-loop water filtration system, so that, yeah, they took some initial water out of the aquifer, which quite frankly any business does, in the state of Florida. Theirs obviously is a little bit more, but they're not just sucking water out of the ground that should be for the people of Florida. They have a closed loop filtration system so you can reuse that water to cool their systems. Altamont Springs, Florida has an advanced wastewater treatment system. In Altamont Springs, they say that their wastewater can be treated back to medical grade water. I'm actually going to tour the facility in a short amount of time here. So if you can do that in Altamont Springs, why can't you do that on site for a data center? The third thing is power. And I talked about not raising your electricity prices. Now let's just talk about raw power needs. Today in Florida, I think there's only enough free baseload power to turn on. Probably about 4 to 5 hyperscale data centers. Today in Florida, we don't have the amount of baseload power in our state. Let's say Texas does. That's why there's 135 data centers being built in Texas. Because what they're doing in West Texas is they're using the natural gas in the Permian Basin, and they're just pumping it straight up, and they're using that to power these things. Florida doesn't have the dedicated power source the way Texas does. So where a lot of these data centers are going to go in the country is to where accessible baseload power that is consistent in order to turn on and operate consistently. And that's just kind of the way the thing is. The fourth is proximity, and I think this is where a lot of residents have concern. You don't want to see a big data center next to your house. That's what happened in Northern Virginia. So a lot of the YouTube videos that people are looking at with data centers, that's Northern Virginia. Because what they did is they had no respect for somebody walking out their front door and seeing a large, Amazon hyperscaler, for lack of a better example. So we want to make sure that there are setbacks and there are barriers between a data center and somebody's house. We don't want to just be sitting right next to you. That's not right. That's not fair. That's not what people signed up for. Where this is becoming an issue is that data centers are zoned under industrial land. In Florida, we have a lot of industrial land that is not too far from residential areas, where a lot of different things happen. And so I think this is where the community members working with industry and work with local government, we're going to have just some very frank meetings about what a data center actually does bring. One of the reasons why Fort Meade is looking at it, there's a couple other parts of the state that are looking at it, because they're in these counties that are fiscally constrained counties. And so on one hand, we have residents and citizens who want to repeal homestead property taxes. Trust me, I want to do it too. But to your question, the realtor, where's the money coming from? So if you have a data center come into your county, what the county officials are looking at is saying, well, this is now fresh tax revenue, where I can now do other things and actually decrease the tax revenue for our citizens. The way I look at this situation, and actually the other lady that talked about cell phone towers, it reminded me, it took me back. 10 years ago in Florida, the big fight was on cell phone towers and the 5G nodes. And at the time, 10 years ago, everybody was fighting cell phone towers. In every community, I don't want a cell phone tower. Every community, I don't want a 5G node. I don't want it in my street corner. I don't want it in my median. I want my median to look like this. Today in Florida, notwithstanding the bill in Washington, I'll still read the bill, but today in Florida, it's hard to find community groups that say, I don't want a cell phone tower. People don't want to go from 4 bars to 1 bar. This is what happens. And so I want to be mindful of where the people of Florida are. I truly, truly do. There is a way to balance industry and residential communities and the Florida way of life. We want to bring balance to that. I'm a little concerned about all of the political posturing on this issue. Like, for the people who posture on this, I don't posture. I'm telling you directly. Here's where it is, here's where it's not. I think at scale, the state could probably only really turn on and deliver 5 data centers, depending on where they are in the state of Florida. There definitely should be setback from residential communities. Sorry, that's my gate. Somebody's going to my front gate. Sheriff, let them in. Thank you, Sheriff. So we want to make sure we do that as well. The water issues, we do not want, whether it's a data center or anything else, sucking up fresh water out of our aquifers. That is critical to Florida. But there is a way you can work with industry to make sure that does not happen. And on the power consumption piece, we want to make sure that the electricity rates for Floridians are not going up for data centers. This is the governor's position. I know they're going to go back on their AI stuff in the special session that the governor's called for. I look forward to seeing that legislation coming out. There's a lot of aspects, actually the vast majority of the aspects that the governor has promoted. I support those, especially with respect to AI and protecting kids and AI. I fully support that. I want to see the language as it comes back. But we're going to make sure that it's managed appropriately for the state of Florida.
Thank you for answering that. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody, listen. I want to thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. It's a great state. God bless you guys. And by the way, August 18th is coming fast. I need your vote. Please vote for me to be your next governor. We're going to do a great job protecting Florida, and we're going to make it better than it's ever been. God bless you.
Oh yeah, I didn't think they were gonna let me. I'm respectful, but they're all good questions. Yeah. I use my middle name as my last name. People are crazy. I get this crazy stuff. I'm like, look, I'm talking to you. We don't agree, but yeah.
I don't know.
Hey,
Max Goodman.
Max Goodman?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Maybe catch you around.
Hey, thank you so much. See you. Sorry, I'm blocking you. Have a good day. Or day. I said night.